It's strange. I ain't strange. I'm sick of this world. I'm sick of suffering. It's strange. I'm sick of this world. I'm sick of suffering.
Hello, everybody.
Don't get straight, no, no, no. I ain't getting straight. Don't get straight. I ain't getting straight. I'm sick of the suffering. Can't stand the pain. Don't get straight. Well, we know the story. Oh, ain't the way they say we can see. Little day.
They got to Brendan's head.
Totally insane. Don't get straight. Everything they got, questionable evidence gathered by many walls, but it makes such sense. While they're in the game, don't get strange. Don't get straight, no, no, no. Oh, now I ain't getting straight. Don't get straight. I ain't getting straight. And that lying, that cheating, that predatory sweat DA, anything he said, he couldn't throw away. He's a legal stain. Don't get strange.
He's a legal stain.
Oh, may we finally find out who's to blame. Don't get strange.
Don't get strange.
Don't get strange. How you doing, everybody? Hello. I was just watching that Sean. Just watching that Sean. Oh. I don't know who James Kloss is. Jamie Kloss? I don't know who that is, actually. Makes one research details of the story. Hello, everybody. Hi. Hello. All right, so just going to go live here a little bit and talk a little bit about, the premiere I just uploaded. We can talk about the two things, obviously that I put in my video, but I'd be actually kind of interested to hear you guys say or voice or show in the chat for us to talk about what are the points for you, some of the points for you that it's just hard to ignore when it's so obvious, that whole theme in mind. What jumps to mind in these cases for you? Well, that's great news that the 13-year-old was found. Okay. Missing since October. Yeah, okay. 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 Well, as I said, I have not heard of it. So, anyways, so I guess I'll start off talking about the clip of Ken, talking about, he interrupts Jerry because he knows what Jerry's going to bring up, and he doesn't want Jerry to bring it up, obviously. He knows he's going to bring up the deleted voicemails, and that's going to lead to the whole, it's just going to lead to a can of worms that Ken Kratz does not want to open. He knows that they never looked down that road. He knows that the investigation never took one step down that road. And so he jumps in and he interrupts Jerry. And he says, look, we have the right to notice that they're going to change their theory. If they're saying that Teresa was alive on November 1st or 2nd or whatever, then we have notice to that, or we have a right to have notice of that or whatever. And Jerry's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And it's like, no matter how clear Jerry makes his point that that's not what he's saying, Kratz deliberately keeps misinterpreting it, and Willis does as well. Because what Jerry's saying, I mean, here's the rub of it for me, is Jerry's bringing this up because this means something was happening with Teresa's phone in a very critical time period in terms of this case. And what kind of a defense were they running again? What was it? It was something planting. Oh, framing and planting, right? Oh, yes, of course. Well, what's something that an agency or agencies that are framing and planting and doing those sort of things, they're already to that point that they're doing those sort of things. What's another thing that they would do? Leave avenues of investigation unexplored because it might lead to somebody else. That's something, that falls under the line of the planting and framing defense, in my opinion. That therefore makes it relevant, in my opinion. So I have no idea what's in Willis's head at all. So I have no idea what was in Willis's head at all. And, it's to me, it's highly relevant, especially when you look at it in the light that I just suggested that, Stephen's defense was based on planting and framing and basically prejudice or, bias, essentially. And for Judge Willis to try to suggest that something happening with that phone in the time period that it happened is just bizarre. And it's like I said in my video there, guys. I have another video, and I left the link. I have left the link down below for you guys as well for it in this live session as well. It's the video I did about the phone, Teresa's phone, and the deleted voicemails, and it shows you a bit of the research so that you will understand that on the first, everything was going straight to voicemail because the phone had been powered down and the Singular's network no longer sensed it on the network. So Singular stopped ringing the phone. And when people would call it, they would just go straight to voicemail. Well, eventually the voicemail filled up. So then people were just getting sent straight to the voicemail, but we're getting a message of this person's voicemail box is full. Goodbye or whatever, basically something like that. I show you two different, I put in the video, there's two different ones that you get. Anyways, I pretty thorough in the video. It comes from a Reddit post by somebody called Deleted. Anyways, it was really, really interesting, but it shows that we're able to show that people were calling that phone on the morning of the 2nd, I believe it is, and that the phone was ringing. And in order for the phone to be able to ring, it had to have been powered on, and Singular had to have been able to sense it on Singular's network. So that means that phone had to get turned on in order for it to be ringing again. It's just, anyways, that's just the way it is. That's just how it is. It's, inescapable, really. Let's see. We can't muddy the good framing by exploring the truth. Haha. I hate the word investigation is even used in this case. Zero investigation and leads pointing to where anywhere other than SA, right? Hi, Ang Katarna. Glad to see you here. The fact that anything is happening to the phone after October 31st seems strange to me, since it should have been burned at that point. Right, exactly, Zelma. That's exactly the point. The fact that something's happening with that phone at all, and the fact that there was no investigation as to what was going on with it is, it's telling. It's, like I said, it's hard to ignore when it's so obvious. Willis was worried about his pension, just like every other official in Manitowoc at the time, if SA was proven innocent, right? At one point, KZ said, There was communication between TH and the Yonda residents, but the calls were not answered by the phone. Why was this not brought to the jury's attention? I think the jury got to hear the message on Barb's machine from Teresa. I could be wrong, but I think they did. Let's see. Wouldn't that also mean it wasn't burning in a burn barrel on the 31st? Exactly, Kali. Yes, that's the other implication of it. Yes. So there's that mess. That's, so the fact that and I don't even know if Adrian is even here or not, but the reason why that Adrian always asks me whenever I cover this particular topic of Ken Kratz and the deleted voicemail, she loves my impression, because it is funny when Judge Willis asks Ken Kratz, does the state know what happened to the voice, or does the state know who deleted the voicemail, the voice messages? And Kratz is just like, if we had any idea that the defense was going to be changing its theory to Teresa being alive, and it's just like he goes right back to that, trying to suggest that that's what the defense is saying, asserting his own narrative when the defense was clearly saying, no, we're not saying that Teresa was alive. We're saying that somebody was playing with this phone, and his little moment is just hilarious. So anyway, hey Travis, how's it going, buddy? So once again, I will encourage everybody here to think about your own, it's hard to ignore when it's so obvious moments for you with these cases. Yes, the Belgian flag was sent to me by Jerome. That he sent that to me, and so that's another one of my symbols of international support there. That would be the whole thing case. Brendan saying I didn't think of it. Yeah, actually, that's a good one, Ziggy. That's a very, very good one, Ziggy. When they're pushing Brendan to say that Teresa was shot, and that's what they're really fishing for. They're like, come on, Brendan, we know something with her head, we cut her hair. No, something with her head though, Brendan. Come on. And they're just repeatedly trying to get him to guess. And then eventually, Wiegert just blurts it out because he's tired of waiting for Brendan to guess. Which, I mean, come on. If Brendan had any inkling about Teresa being shot in the head, he would have offered that out there. He just wasn't. He didn't know. He didn't know what they wanted. He didn't know what they were expecting. That's what that proves, because then Wiegert blurts it out, and then and says, "Well, I'm just going to ask you who shot her in the head." And so Brendan immediately goes, "Oh, Stephen did," right? And then they're like, "Oh, so why didn't you tell us that?" And he says, "Because I couldn't think of it." Okay, it's that wording. That wording to me is very, very, very interesting, because that's not the way you would say it. When asked, why didn't you tell us that? You would say, because I couldn't remember, right? Or something like that, right? It would be something more like that. You wouldn't say because I couldn't think of it. To say I couldn't think of it means I couldn't. It's basically saying I couldn't guess what you wanted. That's what it's basically saying. I couldn't think of what you wanted. That's really what it says. So yeah, I do believe that is a very telling part. I just want a new trial for both. Did they find her camera? Was it in the camera? I believe was in the barrel. It was in the burn barrel, I believe. Erekose, what voicemail message did we hear from TH on MAM? Was that the Yonda message? Yes, T1. That was the message left on the Yonda machine, which Bobby heard. Bobby was there that morning and everything. Bobby heard that. Bobby knew she was coming. So it's just an interesting thing to note. And the jury hearing all of the evidence. Well, I will say, I don't know exactly what Spicy's referring to there, but what I will say in very specific terms is the way that the jury asked for Bobby's testimony, because they clearly obviously had issues with it, or at least had questions regarding it, and were clearly had a bit of a, thing about Bobby and wanted to learn or wanted to make sure they understood what he said fully. Anyways, they asked for his testimony, and Judge Willis says no. He basically tells them no. He asked them to be more specific of what they want, and they end up just not answering him because I guess they wanted it all. And if they weren't going to be able to get it all, then I guess they figured it was pointless. I don't know what exactly happened there, but I don't understand why Bobby's testimony. It wasn't like they were asking for an entire day of transcripts or anything. They were just asking for one person's testimony. So I don't know. It's just odd to me that was denied them. The fact alone that CC's SO wasn't allowed jurisdiction and was in the SA trailer should have dropped the case mistrial. I was thinking it was him deleting incriminating VMs. Good collie and the key behind the case and by the slippers. I mean, really? Yeah. The key is also another one, dude. Totally. It's hard to ignore when it's so obvious. The key. I always joke around because I say the key popped out of Narnia, because that's really what it's almost like here. I mean, to suggest after that cabinet had been searched already 2, 3, 4 times that suddenly Colburn's in there and magically shakes the cabinet, and yeah, dude, seriously. Kucharski's alien was standing in Narnia and then threw the key out. That's I swear. I'm joking, but anyway. The key was phone call to mom, I guess on tests 2. Oh, I guess on test 2. That's true. That's exactly what Brendan said to his mom. That's absolutely true. I forgot armed robbery of a bank was against the law. Let's see. Yeah, I love the great example of why juveniles and developmental delayed folks need to be interviewed differently. Absolutely. Even Reed tells you that. Even Reed in their own, whatever, like literature, tell you that you can't just use the full Reed technique on a juvenile. You just can't. They advise you of their own technique, saying that if you use this full technique on a juvenile, your results are going to be very sketchy. You're not going to be, they're not going to be very reliable, because the full Reed technique really gets a lot of, misinformation from juveniles. And Reed says that and acknowledges that themselves. So that should tell you something. Hi, Michelle Moore. Hello. Crazy Air Delius. Idiot Savant. Yes. In fact, I was reviewing the motion for post-conviction relief today, getting ready for a video, and I was reading that part today. It's such a great part to read. I love reading that part where KZ is going through the whole idiot savant narrative. It's brilliant. I love it. BD actually said that from jail when his mom asked, well, how did you know? And he said, I guessed. Right. Exactly. That was on the prison phone. Where's the original key? Good question. I was just reading the motion for post-conviction relief today, and it clearly stated in there that they have never located where Teresa's real car key, where her house key, or where her business key are. That has apparently never been found. Barb, for first time, realizes what Brendan has gotten himself into. That's true. Let's see. BD said it in the interrogation also. Magic bullet. Oh, the magic bullet. Absolutely. Another it's hard to ignore when it's so obvious moment. Yes, the magic bullet, absolutely. So much magic in this case, yeah. It's like Johnny or like Ripper was saying on my video before this one. If you guys were there for the premiere that aired before this, Ripper was on there and he was talking about he's counted 237 coincidences in this case. Coincidences. So he's coining that phrase now. Criminal justice coincidences now. So funny, but it was an apt point. Many laws of physics and nature suspended. Absolutely. Why Stephen would leave her car on the property when he went up north, knowing, that they were suspicious of him already. Right, exactly. And the other thing that I was just reading in the motion for post-conviction relief is that they point out, it's like, okay, they say he got into the RAV4, he drives past the car crusher, which could have crushed the car. He drives past the smelter, which could have burned up Teresa's body to the point of being untraceable. And he takes the car over and he parks it up on that ridge, double parked, the opposite way of all of the other cars, with a bunch of stuff piled on it so that it sticks out like a sore thumb. And that was what Stephen was doing. And that was part of the whole idiot part, because she was talking about, okay, so Stephen's such an idiot, he does this, but then, like he's able, Stephen the savant is able to clean up every trace of DNA and blood that was left by Teresa Halbach in his trailer and in the garage. So, and so she goes back and forth for these, the way the prosecution's narrative rolls out for pointing out how literally Avery has to be an idiot and a savant, and it's just funny. Whoever deleted the message, a real killer. It's a good chance. Well, I was referring to the fact that TH did converse with BOD via some way the day of the 31st, and she contacted the residents for directions. Didn't BOD reply to her via a computer or other source? I don't know, Spicy. I actually don't know. Michelle Moore, I'm behind. Didn't know Bobby heard the message on the Yonda. Well, he was there, Michelle. He was there that morning. He was sleeping there. And the computer activity for that morning shows that he was not really spending a whole lot of time in bed. So it's a reasonable inference that he heard that message getting left on the machine, because you know how those machines are. Phone rings, the machine picks up. You hear it all throughout the house. I don't know. I remember back in the 80s and 90s when we had those kinds of answering machines in our house. And I just remember the speakers on those things were pretty loud. Let's see here. Duty, everybody. Yeah, it's very suspicious regarding her keys. Absolutely. With the snow running, I'm running a last errand. I'll be back in 20 minutes. If anyone gets out of the line, I'll smack them and then get back. This case is Hogwarts. There you go. That's where it belongs, with all the magical stuff in it. Let's see here. The November 9th interview, Barb Yonda in the interview said, Barb said, after Bobby got home, he said TH left a message on the phone. I think they meant the message machine. Hey, you, edit Yonda, is there a chance Barb is being so supportive, knowing that her other might so have something to do with it? Her other son might have something to do with this. The other stuff was found in the redundant barrel. Love Zellner tweeted. Yeah. There's so many bones being found all over the place. There's so much there's just so much going on right now with so much, revelations of these bones and everything. It's pretty nutty. Call me crazy every time I look at Teresa. OMG, I'm only 20 minutes late. Isn't crushing the car an involved process though? I don't know, not really. I mean, well, kind of, only in the sense that you got to go get the front loader so that you can lift it up and put it in there. But then otherwise it's just pushing a button and machine just crushes it, right? I don't know. Since RH admitted they figured out her password, it seems likely he would have accessed her voicemail. That makes sense. You know, it's important to know where her phone was because, like I said, her phone was powered up. It had to get powered up in order for people to hear it ring again. Because if it wasn't powered up, okay, clearly the phone had been turned off because people were calling on the first and it was going straight to voicemail. No ringing, just straight to voicemail. Okay. Then the voicemail box got full. Then they were just getting a message telling them that the voicemail box was full, but there was no ringing. Okay. But on the morning of the second, when these 2 voicemails had been deleted, okay, suddenly the phone is ringing again. Okay. Teresa's mom leaves a message on it and somebody else leaves a message on her voicemail. But the fact is that the phone is now ringing. They clearly state that the phone rang. Okay. For the phone to ring again, the phone had to be powered up and sensed by Singular's network. That's the only thing that could make the phone ring again. So it's important to note. The coroner, absolutely. Her being denied access is absolutely fishy. Yeah, it was some creepy stuff that BOD was looking at on the computer. Absolutely. Can we just tell Ken Kratz that this case is never going away and let Wisconsin know as well? Absolutely. Scooby, yeah, them bones is a mess. Absolutely. I think not having the coroner there was suspicious. Well, they did have a coroner, but they had Calumet's coroner. I mean, technically that was Deborah Kakich's turf. So the fact that they were pushing her out and bringing another coroner in on her turf, I mean, it's just all of these things are all telling. They're not supposed to happen, and the fact that they are happening is strange and tells us that there's something going on beneath the surface. Let's see. Amen, brother. I've been saying that from the start about the voicemails. That's no way to take care of your bones. It's hard to figure out what came from where or what was moved from somewhere. It's one hot mess. Absolutely. In my opinion, after seeing interviews and hearing phone conversations with BD, it seems to me he would have soiled himself and ran if he walked into SA's trailer. Yes, I believe that Brendan might like break down just from killing a fly or a cockroach. I feel like he might have conflicted feelings about doing something like that. To suggest that he was part of what happened to Teresa is just ridiculous to me. Let's see, right? So RH and MH probably had the phone. Wouldn't there be cell phone pings if it was on the 31st? No records about that from Singular. That's an interesting point, Sean. But you know, I do know that there is where I can't remember who it was. A Singular, I think it was somebody from Singular who was saying you're only the phone will no longer ring. It's actually in my other video, the video down below. So if everybody wants to look into that video, we'll look into this and we'll find out what's what with it. But I got a lot of things in that video that show, you know, what was supposed to happen, what generally happens with Singular at that time and stuff. So, but we can go deeper into it. Erekose, has there ever been a search done up north in Crivets? I don't think so, buddy. Many items in the state are in my original keys. I mean, I know they were up there, but I don't know how much searching they did. I don't know if they ever got a warrant for searching Crivets. I'm not saying her ex did it, but I kind of thought he was responsible for the phone thing. I think Brian's very fishy. And I think if law enforcement is able to reclaim dried blood from the salvage yard during the investigation, then they can plant the blood in the RAV, and I believe Ryan Hilligas can go right back to being a prime suspect. I agree on BD. Seems like a protective person in contrast to BOD, right? How was BD convicted with no evidence? Because of his confession. Yep, I believe Cal Company Emmy was a player. He just signed whatever they wanted, and yeah, exactly. I haven't read Kiss the Girls, but heard it was pretty much kind of what BD. Yeah, and in many ways, there's a lot of like aspects of it that are like what BD said. Yeah, the flakes in the car. Yes. Oh my God, the flakes. Who bleeds flakes, right? Who in the hell bleeds flakes? That's just ridiculous. And they did find some blood next to the driver's seat that somehow got dripped onto the carpet, and that blood didn't flake. So for somebody to suggest that the blood in the back had gotten into the carpet and then it dried and then it flaked, that's not really going to work, because that didn't happen with one of the blood drops in the front that fell on the carpet. So yeah, interesting stuff. Eisenberg essentially did autopsy report. Queso and me was requested. Requested by. Okay. Bleed flakes, right? I know, right? Who bleeds flakes, right? I know. Sure that RH did it. Right on, Amber. What about huge 9mm drop of blood found? Who bleeds like that? That's interesting. Yeah. I confess I love Erekose. Am I guilty of something? Yeah. You're guilty of having good taste. What can I say? See, BOD really falls into the sexual sadist psychopath category after seeing all the searches on the computer. Yeah, it's really some disturbing stuff getting searched on that computer, that's for sure. I'm going to say 36 million reasons. Yeah, that's another hard to ignore when it's so freaking obvious. Yeah, definitely the 36 million reasons is definitely a hard one to ignore. Yes, but legally in Wisconsin, autopsy must be done by an MD, a pathologist, which Eisenberg is not. Box is checked on death certificate. So, and then we can move on to that bit about, Rohrer, right? Where he talks about how him and Michael Griesbach did not send the information about Lincoln Colburn to the AG's office when they sent all the other information there and everything, right? That they didn't do that. Are you kidding me? Like, what the hell? How did you not do that? How does that not get done? How did you leave that out? How did you leave it out and not discover after, that you had forgotten and left it out and not taken it or submitted it or done whatever or mailed it to the AG's office or something? I mean, it's just like, how does that get left out and you don't know? And it's just bizarre to me. It's just so bizarre to me. And it leads me to believe that Michael Griesbach is just not the good guy that he wants everybody to believe he is, because he clearly was ready to crucify Avery before Teresa ever before the Teresa thing ever happened. I don't believe leaving out the Lincoln Colburn stuff was an honest mistake, especially considering he's representing Colburn now. So anyway. Please talk about the 7 pairs of panties. Why is that? In Wisconsin, an RN can sign a death certificate. Okay. 7 pairs of panties. Okay, the law enforcement collected 7 pairs of Teresa's panties. I see. It was something like they grabbed 3 soiled or used or pairs that she had worn recently, and then there was 4 pairs, I think, of clean pairs out of a drawer that they got, and not sure why that is, but they collected those 7 pairs of panties along with her vibrator, her toothbrush, hairbrush, and various other things. I mean, I don't know why they needed all these things for DNA, but and then ended up getting her pap smear, all these. So I don't really know exactly what they were doing and why they needed all these various things, but it is odd. Supposedly autopsy done by Dr. M. Steyer in Madison. What about newly brought to light TV still of LE or Tech taking picture of Avery burn pit? I did see that. That was interesting. It goes county by county. When I saw the blood by the ignition, I immediately thought Q-tip, and that's what it looks like. Yeah, totally. Usually the motor and trans is removed before crushing. Yes. Yeah, that's true. T1, actually. That is a good point. You usually got to pull those out. But I would say on a little RAV4 like that, probably, a guy like Steven could probably drop those out pretty quick. It's just like with anything that you do. When you do it enough and repeatedly, you just are able to do something that takes the layman 2 hours. You're able to do it in like 45 minutes, right? Because it's just kind of what comes along with practice and knowing how to do it. RN can sign a death certificate, but not an autopsy. I can even send you a statute on that. Go Scooby. School and Travis here on the law. That's funny. I love it. You go, Scoobs. For Travis, doesn't a confession have to be corroborated? No physical evidence at all connecting Brendan. Oh, well, we all know that's not the case because it happens all the time without corroboration. Ethical prosecutors require it, but not all prosecutors are ethical, unfortunately. I live in New Jersey. I will never move there. ST1 gas tank and battery. None of these involved are believable. Right on about greasy back. Yeah, I call him grease back. Let's see. Steer was removed from the case and replaced by one of Fallon's cronies. I have more info. RE this, and I'll talk to you later. Okay. If you don't remove those EPA, can you shut the yard down? If they don't remove those, EPA can shut the yard down. Okay, right. If you don't remove the engine and the transmission, and I think mainly because if you crush them, then all of those fluids that are inside of them, those toxic chemicals, run off into the soil and that sort of stuff. So it's all that stuff has to be very carefully disposed of. So, they was gonna try and plant a pair. Yeah, that could be. T1 for all and all for moi. Thanks, dude. And the DC was signed and filed on December 5th, same day as prelim hearing, admitted as Exhibit 15, never discussed again. Ken needed the panties there in his home. Yeah, he wears them on Friday nights when he goes out with Leah. Reports of RAV4 found on the 3rd. Where were these reports for the defense? I'm not exactly sure why Dean and Jerry weren't pointing that out more, personally. She was a smoker. Why not take butts for DNA from ashtray in the car or at her home? Let's see. I find that very fishy, and we have no record that the autopsy even done before that. FBI results show that actually ID'd her not received until 1/17/2006. Scoob, he wasn't really removed. He just wasn't called. Yes, especially with the right equipment. Did you meet any of the Avery family on your visit with Paul? You mean when I went to the rally, Ang? When I went to the rally, I actually was there and I met Mark. My friend Mark Hodnott was there. Paul's planning to go this year, though. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to meet Paul for the first time this year at rally. And I did meet the Avery family, yes. Everybody except for Alan, who is the one I wanted to meet most, of course. And Zone, they're asking about Carmen. What's up with that? Well, removed, not recalled, but they didn't want to hear your opinion. I'm not related to Fallon and Queso. Yes, L. Fallon is not related to Fallon from the case, folks. Don't get it that confused. Well, the box is checked on the form on the death certificate. Death certificate is a hot mess. He wasn't removed. He signed and filed it. They pretty much knew a nurse, ME, wasn't going to be able to handle it. KK and ME are from the same county. He went out and hired a pathologist he knew, but she asked Barb. See, that's what they want to find. Hire experts who support your theory. I want to know who all the fingerprints belong to from the RAV. That's a good question. It's ridiculous that they weren't concerned in finding that out. That's because one of the experts for the state at trial said that they were unsuitable for identification. Whatever the flip that means. I blinked. I think that's just code for BS. Erekose, you met the cousin in the protest line. Yes, I met Kim Ducat. Yes. That was when I was doing my video. I know that's why you're bringing that up. Yeah, I met Kim Ducat. Yeah, it was always bothered me. He gets phone calls, talk to his brother, all while raping, stabbing, moving her, and yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just a ridiculous narrative. I thought Steven had said his prints were on the car. No, Steven never said that. Well, he said maybe they could be because when he went over to talk to her, I guess he said he touched it, but that I think he said they could be, not that they were. Dean and Jerry catch a bad rap for this, lose loss, but their hands were truly tied in defense. Someone should have been charged with kidnapping and imprisonment of the defense as well. I am a 7-hour drive from Avery Salvage. Honestly, thinking about driving this year's rally. Oh, I'd love to see you there, Shweezy. I'd love to see everybody there. As many of you as possible. I'd love to see you. How the hell can the judge say the VMs aren't important? I agree, Patrick. It's ridiculous. Code for not essays. Yeah, true. What do you think, KZ? Big news? And I don't know. I'm not sure what her big news is going to be, actually. Kind of been thinking about it, but I'm just not sure because she can't really introduce new evidence. So it's probably just going to be something that she's learned that she wants to pass on to the rest of us. Maybe it's going to be interesting to find out. Forensic dentist made a positive match. Yeah. Who's the guy who alerted Colburn? That's Kevin Ramlow. Angela, you're talking about Kevin Ramlow is his name. Entrusted, when was that? Find the vehicle with critical missing person, but don't search interior until the next day. Yes, one tooth miracle, yes. When is rally? Rally is June 15th. Amber, it's June 15th. So yeah, I think that's interesting that Griesbach and Rohrer managed to leave out that bit about Lincoln Colburn when they sent their file to the AG's office. I still think that there should have been plenty of information there for the AG's office to realize that there was something bad going on and not sign off on it, but they did. Why can't she introduce new evidence? Because the way the court systems work. We've been doing some videos about this recently. In order to bring new evidence in, you have to go back to the trial court or the circuit court, the state circuit court. You have to go there. That's where you bring new evidence in. So that's why she's already been there. She filed her motion. She filed a bunch of supplements. She had to go back again over the CD and the computer stuff. So all that stuff now has gone through the circuit court, and now it comes with her to the appeals court. And now that all that information that she introduced through the trial court now comes with her into the appeals court. At this point, she can't introduce anything new into the current appeal, but she's continuing to collect information and she's continuing her investigation. And because of that, she's continuing to learn new things. If this current appeal doesn't find success, she will have a bunch of other things that she can then go and file a new petition for post-conviction relief and basically start the whole thing over again until she just creates this record that is just a mountain, a record of everything that is just completely shooting a hole through the prosecution's theory until eventually it just comes down on top of the prosecution and they just can't, hold it back any further or anymore. Dolores was doing great. Steven's dad was up in Crivets feeding the animals, I guess, that lived up in Crivets. They got a bunch of animals up there, so he was up there feeding the animals. He apparently spends quite a bit of time up there. In my humble opinion, okay. I may have seen Buting tweet highlighted on Fresh Start Monday. I believe it was 3 known prints. There's 8 prints total. That's true. Yeah, I was interested in saying it's true. Uyghur mentions autopsy report from Steer. Her news is that Bissell is going to hire SA for paid endorsements. Who knows? They're printing up the briefs. Maybe she worked out a stip to do testing while appeal proceeds. What if she found that smoking gun piece of evidence, some undisputable evidence? Please go to school. You rock, dude. You're amazing. Oh, thank you, L. Fallon. There has been some records from the cell company if the VM was accessed from TH cell or an outside line. Oh, Dan, don't get me excited. Because he would be able to say anything. He would not be able to say anything definite and might be so in on the skull bullet theory. Thank God for MAM filmmakers for being there. Everyone that bought the hook, line, and sinker. I'm wondering if Carmen's grandmother turned over some of her ashes for testing. I believe that was the plan. Too bad they can't just Google Earth some of the areas to see what really happened. That's what I think maybe worked a deal for testing. She was working on Bobby Dassey's garage too, right? Entrusted Kelly Schrader. Jerry Buting tweeted on July 26, 2018. Colburn link. It's got Tadek. No autopsy report. What evidence does the state have that proves his guilt? That was left out of MAM1. No body, no case. Steer came out. Okay. Steer came out in 2011 and said that he was pressured by prosecutors, including Fallon, to lie and fracture the skull in another case. Yes, thank God for them and everyone who came after them in support of Brendan and Steven. Thanks. I'm new to the Twitter. Erekose, what's next? Besides return to other courts. What's next is on February 1st, KZ will be filing her brief with the appeals court. The state will then have, I think it's 40 days, 45 days, I think it is, or whatever the state will have to then file their response to her brief. And then after that, and they can ask for an extension and they can basically get an additional 40 days. So it could be as much as 80 days after she files before we see the state's response. And then once we get the state's response, then Zellner will have, I think it's something like 20 days, 25 days or something. She will have to file her reply to the state's response. At that point, the appeals judges who are assigned to the case will then decide if they want to hear oral arguments. If so, they will call, the lawyers in for oral arguments, or they will make the decision based on what they got in the briefs. And that won't happen overnight. That'll probably be at least 2 to 3, 4, possibly 7 to 8 month process. It could be a while before we get that decision. But that's basically where it's at. And then, like I said, if they deny her, she goes right back to the beginning again. She starts with the quick DNA testing, whatever else the battery, the battery being from a Manitowoc fleet, all that stuff. She then takes that and she brings that in through a post-conviction motion through the circuit court and everything. And then when Judge Angela Sukowicz denies that, which we all know she will because she won't even look at this stuff, so then that will be coming to the appeal court. And eventually this process will just go on, and eventually, and hopefully the appeals court will just get tired of it and the embarrassment of what happened in the Avery case, and they'll eventually go her way. Yeah, I don't know about what her new information might be. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued, but I don't know. Google Earth is not real. What? All right, so I think that's probably good, for tonight. I think that's a lot of things, obviously, that we've talked about there. A lot of different issues with this case, obviously, that you guys were bringing up that are very good issues. Along with the whole theme of it's hard to ignore when it's that freaking obvious, right? It's hard to ignore. I guess to send my emails, emails later. See you later, Scoobs. I'm signing off as well, Scoobs. So, anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to do a quick video tonight, but seemed like a fair amount of people were interested in me going live. So went ahead and went live after here to talk with you guys a little bit and talk about some of the things in the case. So hope you guys all enjoyed it. Hope you guys all found it interesting as usual. And so we'll go ahead and listen to Stacy on the way out. And like I said, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. And let's hear Stacy. Love the Barn Studio versions.
Oh, they say you can trust us. All but they use the badge for an illusion of justice. Oh, they say you can trust us. All but they use the flag for an illusion of justice. It's indefensible. All now what they did. Convict an innocent man twice with a 16-year-old kid. Yes, we can't turn away, pretending all the pieces fit. All but if we turn away, we let them get away with it. Oh, they say you can trust us. All but they use the badge for an illusion of justice. Oh, they say you can trust us. All but they use the flag for an illusion of justice. Of justice. We need a wrecking crew to tear this whole thing down. Oh, did you hear the news? There's a new sheriff in town. Not the knee touching one, not the one supported by them clowns. All the superhero one. She's gonna tear the house of cards down. Oh, they say you can't trust us. All but they use the bad for an illusion of justice. Oh, they say you can't trust us. All but they abuse the flag for an illusion of justice. Of justice. We need a wrecking crew to tear this whole thing down. There's something going on. Freedom is in danger. Agents of the state, they taking children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. They needed someone, oh, Jody wouldn't flip. They looked around, saw him quick. Oh, it made so much sense why. Oh, Brendan Dassey, he was Stephen's alibi. There's something going on in Wisconsin that's not kosher. We better stop, let's all take a look closer. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid for Brendan Dassey. That's exactly what they did. They visit him once, they visit him twice. They make him feel so safe. Sandwiches, soda, so nice. No cameras rolling and under no lights. Who knows what went on up in Fox Hill Monday night? There's something going on, and freedom is in danger. Everything about this kid getting stranger and stranger. All we know, they will sacrifice your kid. Oh, Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. March 1st, alone in a room with Bert and Ernie. No parent present and no attorney. 4 hours later, with a touch of the knee, they finally get Brendan to agree. There's something going on. I said there's something going on. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. There's something going on. I said freedom is in danger when the agents of the state can take the children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. Take Brendan Dassey, oh, that's exactly what they did.
Good night, folks. Until next time, which will most likely be Saturday, but who knows? Maybe I'll surprise you tomorrow. Good night.